Okay, welcome to the video.
What are you up to?
Oh, I'm just going through for YouTube how many bikes I've owned in the last 40 years.
And how many bikes is that?
There you go, have a look.
No way, Philip. You're not having any more.
Okay, so how many bikes? I mean, like everybody presumably watching this, I'm totally obsessed with bikes and I've been dreaming about them since forever. So it's been really cold and horrible in the UK recently, so I thought I'd do a good spreadsheet, because after bikes, beer and cheese, my favourite thing is spreadsheets. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the whole list, and then at the end we'll do some statistics as well to see if they bring out any trends that might sort of give us a bit of a psychological profile. And then I'll share the spreadsheet with everybody afterwards. Can't wait. Right, okay, we're going to start in 1984, and I should warn you that this is not necessarily chronological order because I can't really remember too well, so it's not too bad at the beginning, and then towards the end I know what I'm doing, but yeah, it's not chronological order. Okay, so the first bike, 1984, it was a Suzuki GP100U, and it was red. So that was the first bike that I ever had. I can't remember anything about it really. I mean, the main thing is it had 6-volt electrics. So when you put the headlight on and you turn the indicators on, the headlight would flash. Supposedly it had 11 horsepower, but that was between 7,000 revs and 7,053 revs, and I was quite jealous of the GP125 because that had 1 extra horsepower. I think the fastest I ever got out of it was an indicated 72 miles an hour, at which point it sort of developed this horrible harmonic frequency vibration and went into a horrible tank slapper, and it was dreadful to up because I took my mate to work once on it and it was absolutely awful. Anyway, so yeah, first bike, Suzuki GP100. Next up was a Honda CBX250 RS. Now, I really wanted the 250, the CB250, which was a single cylinder with a square headlight, but this new model came out, so this was the 4-valve version of the CB250 RS, so it's called a CBX250. And so this would have been about 85, 86, I guess. It was a nice bike, it looked really, really nice, but this was the era when Hondas used to bath their cams, and mine did at about 7,000 miles. Got repaired under warranty. Anyway, moving on, my first kind of biggish bike after that was a Kawasaki GPz550. Brilliant, really enjoyed it, black and orange, and it had an LCD petrol gauge thing on it. Really, really liked it. Didn't keep it for very long because I think I remember Top Gun and I went all maverick and decided to buy a GPZ900R, and I think I was about 18 or 19 at the time at the moment. Can you imagine? Yeah, absolutely cracking bike. I mean, I couldn't really ride it very well, to be honest. I couldn't even make a cup of tea when I was 18 years old, and I have one distinct memory of, I was living in Cheshire at the time, so I went up the Cat and Fiddle, the infamous or the famous Cat and Fiddle, on my GPZ900, like my paddock jacket and white boots and stuff, feeling really cool. And I overtook some old duffer on a Norton Commando, sure it was a yellow one, so it might have been a fastback, so I overtook this old duffer, and then we got to the really bendy bit of the Cat and Fiddle, which, those of you that don't know it, it's horrible, the Cat and Fiddle, really. I don't know why people like it. It's got loads of horrible decreasing radius bends and stuff. Anyway, so we got to the bends, I'm on my GPZ900, and I could see this guy on the Norton Commando catching me up at a massive rate of knots, as though, he was hardly trying, and I was trying a lot. Anyway, so guess what I did? I did the old, I need to adjust my helmet thing, so I pulled into a lay-by and let him pass. So that was my first lesson. It's not what you ride, it's how you ride it. So after that GPZ900, which was a blue and silver one, so it wasn't exactly like Mavericks, I got another GPZ900. Well, why did I do that? Well, that's because on the first GPZ900, I went to the local bike shop, Stockport Motorcycle Centre, long since gone. So I went to the bike shop and I couldn't get into the parking area because there was a Kawasaki lorry parked in front of the gates. So, like an idiot, I parked behind it, left some space, went into the shop, and then a few minutes later somebody said, "Oh Phil, your bike, it's been reversed into by the Kawasaki lorry." So yes, it had got knocked and squashed by a Kawasaki lorry. However, Kawasaki gave me another GPZ900, so that's why I had 2 of them. Okay, around about this time, I then got a Suzuki TS185ER. Cracking little bike. It was really nice and smelly, and can't remember what I did with it really. I think I just messed about on fields and stuff, and it was yellow. Okay, what's next? another Honda, so a VFR 750 FK, bright red one, looked absolutely beautiful, and I kept this one quite a long time, did loads of tours and stuff on it. I think I did about 55,000 miles. I kept it for ages, it was great, totally reliable, although weirdly now it's kind of a bit forgettable. Can't really remember too much about it, you know, apart from I remember, you know, going to races and stuff and seeing them before the RC30 came out. You know, I remember seeing Ron Haslam, you know, the Transatlantic Challenge on, I think that was probably a 1986 or an 87 VFR 750. Anyway, great bike. What's next? Suzuki GS400. So this was a winter hack. It was quite nice actually. It had dreadful tyres, it was red, but it did sort of look like an old British parallel twin, so I quite liked it really, but that was a winter hack. What's next? Another winter hack, so a Honda C90. Oh, I couldn't get on with it. Couldn't get on with that heel and foot thing, and it was just dog slow and horrible, so I didn't really like it. And I know it's a classic, but I didn't get on with it. Right, what have we got now? Another Honda, so a CBR600 FL, and this was purple and red. It was like the most garish early 90s bike you could ever imagine. Absolutely cracking now. I just remember caning it absolutely everywhere. It was brilliant, really enjoyed that bike. Okay, what else have we got? A Kawasaki KLE500. I must have been going through a purple phase because this one was purple as well, and it had a pink seat, had a really boring engine, can't remember anything about it. Can't remember what I did on it, probably just used it for going to work. Okay, another Honda, so a CB350S. So this is the one that basically, it had like a red perimeter frame, so it looked a bit like a Spondon, but it had a bored out Super Dream engine essentially. God, it was boring, but it was a great commuter bike. That was a black and red one. So also, oh, another winter hack, a Honda CG125. Now I really enjoyed this actually, because I think at the time I was commuting to work and it was really bad snow, and the CG125 was great fun in the snow. It was absolutely brilliant, really, really great bike. What else? Okay, what's next? Another CBR. So this is a CBR600 FT. So this is the one with the ram air induction. Really enjoyed it. I think that was probably the pinnacle of those older style steel frame CBR 600s. Brilliant, brilliant bike. Very, very nice. Okay, next on the list is a Yamaha XT350. So I think this was my first trailer bike. I remember it being really tough and robust and having a really good engine actually. I don't think I took it off-road, but it's pretty, you know, it was basic and it was cool. So that was a white and red one. So what's next? Oh, another VFR. So a Honda VFR 750p. So this one is the NR 750 styled one, you know, with the kind of the louvres in the side. Can't remember much about it. I remember thinking it seems to have gone all heavy and lardy, and I think it was making less than 90 horsepower. So I must admit, I found it was a bit boring and it felt a bit heavy and slow compared to the previous one. Okay, first proper trail bike, Kawasaki KMX200. Oh, what a great bike. I mean, it had a really good engine, but the suspension was absolutely woeful for off-road. I can distinctly remember hitting some whoops rather too fast, and the suspension was extended when it should have been compressed, or it was compressed where it should have been extended, and it spat me off, and I went for absolute miles. And soon after that I decided to get a proper enduro bike. The KMX is also notable for the fact that I'd started a new job, and on my first or second day at the new job I was commuting on the KMX200, and I parked somewhere in the company car park, and then 5 minutes later I get a phone call saying, oh, somebody's reversed into your bike, can you go and see them? You know, and I didn't know anybody, and then I found out it's the chief executive. He'd like reversed into my bike and he gave me 50 quid to get it replaced. Nothing had happened to it, I think it had just broke the mudguard. The KMX is also notable for the fact that it barfed its, I think it was the gearbox seal. So the gearbox seal went once while I was like commuting to Stockport College on the A6, and it was running a bit fluffy, but I didn't really notice. But I looked behind me in the mirrors, and my God, I thought it had gone really foggy. I mean, basically, I'd filled all of the A6 going into Stockport with all this sweet smelling smoke. You know, it was like mustard gas settling onto the roadbed. Anyway, so because of the suspension and the fact that I was getting more into off-road, I then got a Kawasaki KDX200. Oh, proper competition enduro bike, you know, beloved of sportsmen and clubmen. Oh, but it was brilliant, really enjoyed that. Great suspension, and I thought it looked like a KX500. Main problem with the KDX200 is the power valves, so like little cotton reels with like spindles on them, and you know the system worked really well. But you know, if you were running the bike, you know, you went for a run and then you just left it in the garage and didn't ride it for a bit, they'd basically get all gummed up, and then the next time you started it, they'd be seized into place. So basically the spindle would break. So I was always replacing the power valves. The other good thing about it was I used to run it on Castrol 747, which is a castor based oil. My God, it smelled absolutely lovely. I mean, it's probably taken like 2 years off my life, but my God, what a bike. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, next on the list, another road bike. So this is a Honda VTR 1000 Firestorm. Firestorm. I can't say. Why can't I say Firestorm? There we go. Firestorm. I'm thinking of Keir Starmer. Yeah, so a VTR 1000 Firestorm. It was red. All I can remember about it, it was really thirsty, had a dead small tank, and I seem to remember having to fill it up, like, you know, at 90 miles. So that didn't last long. Okay, first Triumph. So I had a T595 Speed Triple, and it was the one in roulette green. Oh, what a great bike. I mean, well, had a great engine, but I always felt the front end felt a bit weird, but yeah, it was the best colour ever. Okay, another off-road enduro bike. So, classic Suzuki DR350. Brilliant, absolutely sublime. I mean, it was great off-road, it was a good enduro bike. Took me to Morocco, took me to Syria, all across Europe. What a brilliant bike, absolutely reliable. Although, funnily enough, when I got back from one big trip, I think I'd been to Syria and Lebanon and Jordan, and literally 2 weeks later I was commuting to work on it, and it just sort of ground to a halt, and there was something, I can't remember what it was, there was something in the engine, like a little circlip or something had just got jammed in the cylinder. So, you know, that was 2 weeks after getting back, but apart from that, totally reliable. I mean, I came back from the Middle East and then raced it the next week in an enduro. What a bike, absolutely classic. Okay, next on the list, Honda CB500S. So this was a company bike, no jokes please. So this was a company bike, really good fun, and this was a full fat version, so it had a 52 horsepower engine, and so this is the one, you know, kind of like the one that James Toseland, you know, sort of started to make his name on. Really good bike, handled brilliantly. Right, and then we come on to an absolute classic, the Honda XR600R. Brilliant. Best bike ever, you know, did loads of enduros on it, commuted it, rode it to Egypt, raced it immediately afterwards. Absolutely brilliant, characterful, wonderful bike, and I was a big fan of Scott Summers. So it had a full Super Trap exhaust on it, did all the air filter mods and got rejetted. My God, literally from a whiff of throttle, just like take off. It was brilliant, you know, and legend had it that that model XR600 had the last right way up forks from a CR500 on it. It was brilliant. Why did I sell it? Why did I sell it? And you won't believe what I sold it for. I sold it for the worst bike in the world I have ever owned, which was a CCM 604 Enduro. So for those of you who don't know what that was, so it was basically a Rotax engine rammed into one of CCM frames. Main reason I bought it was because it had electric start, you know, and obviously the XR didn't. But that was kind of mainly pointless because the electric start hardly ever worked. And when it didn't work, you were then confronted with a left-hand kickstart and like this blasted engine that was about 8 foot tall. And it was one of those where you had to look in the cylinder head so you could find top dead centre. You know, and that's what you do when you're commuting in busy traffic in Manchester, isn't it? Absolutely bloody awful bike. Tried to kill me at least 3 times. So the throttle stuck open once, absolutely terrifying. As I say, the electric start kept failing. Left-hand kickstart, absolutely evil. Things were always falling off it. And the other thing was, it was about 4 inches longer than the XR600. So the first time I did a woods enduro on it, literally I had to do a 3-point turn to get around some trees. Dreadful bike, absolutely dreadful, horrible, evil thing. I think we'll stop at number 24 now, because obviously my brain's getting a little bit addled. Before I go though, just one more story about the worst bike that I've ever owned, the CCM 604 Enduro. Oh God, it was horrible. Honestly, it brings me out in a rash thinking about it. No, but the interesting thing is, the final story is when I sold it. So I had it up for sale privately for ages. I mean, no dealers would take it in Part X at all. So I had it up for sale for ages. No one was interested. And at the time I was working in Greater Manchester, and I was working opposite a private hospital, so a Bupa hospital. You'll know those if you're in the UK. Anyway, so I get this guy phones me up and he says, oh, I'll come over and have a look at it. So I asked him where he was and explained to him where I was, and he said, yeah, I know it well because I work opposite the hospital. So yeah, absolutely fabulous. So anyway, at the appointed date and time, I ride the CCM to work, my heart in my mouth in case it blows up or anything. Anyway, so I'm waiting in the car park where I'm working, and I see this small guy approaching me, absolutely immaculately dressed in a lovely shiny grey three-piece suit. He looked really professional and really expensive. And anyway, he rocks up, and he's about 5'2", and I said to him, oh, you're looking for something, thinking he was like coming into my work premises. And he said, no, I've come to have a look at the bike. And I'm like, what? Anyway, so he's looking at the bike. He asked me to start it for him, so I started it, revved it a few times, and he said, yeah, that's great, I'll take it. So I'm sort of slightly amazed, and I just said to him, what are you going to do with the bike? Because if you don't mind me saying, it might be a bit tall for you. And he said, oh yeah, I'm not going to ride it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ship it back to my village in India, and then we're going to use it as a portable generator and also to pump water. And I'm like, what? And later on, I found out that this particular model has a particular type of Rotax engine in it, which is used for such purposes, and it's really good for running on low octane fuel. So I'm like, what? And he said, yeah. And then he paid the money, came to pick it up, and that was that. So even now, as we speak, I'm imagining that the most wretched bike in the universe is in some village in India, bringing fresh, clean water to the inhabitants of that village, and it's not being ridden anywhere. Absolute result. Anyway, so that's the end of the video. So we'll do numbers 25 plus next time around, and then we'll talk about the stats in more detail. But I can tell you that 40% of the bikes that I've owned have been Hondas. Now, what does that tell you? Right, more later.